Hello, welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I am your host, Willie Bragg, and today we're going to discuss Cornel West versus Howie Hawkins. It pains me to do that because, well, I don't want, I really don't want to have any bad ill will toward Howie Hawkins, but the position of being hawkish in Ukraine is pretty unacceptable. I mean, I'm not a cancel culture kind of guy and all that. I really am not. However, it is kind of an unacceptable position to have, and nothing personal against him saying this. I do this against anybody else who has similar positions. So, but Cornel West is correct, and Howie Hawkins is wrong, and that's how I see this. So, a friend of the show, Nikki, she's a Twitch streamer. And before we get to Cabello and Craig Pastor Jardula's discussion, and my apologies to Nikki for not adding her to the thumbnail. I was trying to find a way to put her on the thumbnail when creating this video, and I couldn't. But everybody being discussed here, Kid Cabello, Craig Pastor Jardula, and Nikki. All their information is found in the description box below. So I try to be as fair as I can about this. But she did a Twitch on Howie Hawkins and Howie Hawkins' position on the Ukraine war, the Russian-Ukraine conflict, and she gives her take on this. And I decided to share that. And that's why I'm going to start at first, and then we'll follow with the Heartlands Media with Cabello and Pastor Jardula's take on Cornel West and Howie Hawkins and all that good stuff. So let's start away with Nikki's Twitch stream from a few days back. So here we go. All right, let me go ahead and get everything situated here. And
2 p.m. Eastern time is that soon? I'm trying to figure it out. Because I gotta go to bed soon. I have to go to this place that I might be working, except for I'm not officially working yet. Was that when the CDC was saying the same thing? Pretty much. I'm Idaho. And what's up? Okay, I want to go over this, but let's go over. Eric was in the Howie Hawkins stream yesterday, and I asked him, could he ask Howie about Cornel West, and he, like the angel that he is, he did. That sounded funny. I'm sorry. He, being the respectable human being that he is, Mr. Math teacher, asked thoughts on Cornel West seeking the Green Party nomination. So let's hear what this motherfucker had to say. And here's the link to this at the current time. And I'll give you the ORF video link to, hang on, I'm going to give you that link because I forgot to share that. Here's the ORF link on Twitter. All right, here we go.
How did I guess that? Thoughts on Cornel West seeking the Green Party nomination? You know, I talked with Angela Walker earlier today to see what she thought. And she had the same reaction that I did. You know, this guy, when we talked to him, he was supporting Biden in 2020.
He supported Biden in 2020, and he felt like the Biden's too much of a neoliberal shill. So he saw the error of his way. So you going to hold that against him? I agree. It was wrong for Howie Hawkins. It was wrong for Cornel West to support Joe Biden in 2020. We agree.
Had this, I think, shallow analysis that if Biden can defeat Trump, fascism is defeated, and then we can go after the Democrats' neoliberalism. And Angela and I told him, hey, this Trump is a symptom of a right-wing trend in American politics, white supremacist, racism, and intolerance and bigotry. That
agreed. He's not the first. He won't be the last. And those dog whistles were not invented by Trump. He is a symptom. So far, so good. Nobody's a fan of Trump here. Okay.
It's been, central to politics. The Dixiecratic South and segregation and slavery, all that, and it's still manifesting itself. So it's more than Trump. It can't just be overcome in one election.
All right, thank you, Howie.
When you elect a milquetoast neoliberal, as Cornel
says, the milquetoast neoliberal.
West, right?
Agreed, Nikki. Because his position on Russophobia and his hawkish position on the Ukraine would put him in that kind of shit-libby camp. I mean, his politics is decent otherwise. I know Howie Hawkins well enough. Never met the man, but I know him well enough to know he has decent politics. But his position on the Russian-Ukraine conflict is unacceptable. And Nico House did warn me about him 3 years ago in a YouTube chat. So I guess he was kind of right about it, about Howie Hawkins. I did vote for Howie Hawkins. I'm not going to say I'm not going to say I'm sorry that I voted for him, because honestly, Joe Biden's politics is worse than Howie Hawkins. But I actually am disappointed with Howie Hawkins, and I honestly would have expected better from Howie Hawkins. But anyway,
rightly calls Joe Biden, and then what Cornel's saying now is neoliberalism is the way I put it is they're sowing the seeds of fascism by not taking care of the needs of the people, the material needs of the people in particular.
Well, we agree with that. I have always said that that if you unite blacks, whites, and all the people around, and unite around the working class, and unite what basically what we have in common, where we're all the have-nots, and those on the top are our enemies. And once you defeat capitalism, and when we are all doing well, that will be putting us on the road toward tolerance, and you will see a whole lot less hatred, a whole lot less racism, and you'll be seeing a whole lot more good vibes around. Sincere good vibes, not the really trendy fake shit. So anyway.
So that was my first reaction. What the fuck? And my second reaction.
Let's quote Howie Hawkins. His first reaction. Let's see.
That was my first reaction. What the fuck? And in my
they didn't cut it out.
The second reaction is he announced with the People's Party, which is an online grift, top-down, authoritarian, no membership. I mean, and they just announced he's their candidate.
Howie, the Socialist Party USA ain't that much larger than the People's Party. But you were correct to go and seek the nomination of the Green Party in 2020. You were smart to do that. You were smart to do that because that was the only way the Green Party, Socialist Party USA, gotten any traction. I know this. I used to be a member of that party. You're still a member of that party, as you were also a member of the Green Party. So for you to sit there and make fun of the size of the People's Party when you're a member of the SPUSA, Howie, really, honestly. And I'm not putting down the SPUSA. I'm glad the SPUSA did this in 2020. I think that the SPUSA working with the Green Party is actually a good thing. I think it's going to be a good thing for the Green Party in a lot of ways. And I hope that if Cornel West gets the nomination, I hope y'all don't act like, act in a very resentful sort of way and just say, the hell with it. Honestly, it is a healthy move. It's a healthy move, and it's a gesture of anti-sectarianism. What y'all did, is probably the most impressive thing y'all done in years.
Do they have a membership?
The Scarves one, what's up?
Apparently not. And they certainly don't have the capacity to get on the ballots in 50 states in the District of Columbia. So
that's right. And that's why you seek the Green Party nomination as well. That's why Cornel West decided to do the right thing and go into the Green Party and seek the Green Party nomination. Now, this whole beating up on the People's Party, I'm okay with the People's Party. I just think that they're too dysfunctional, just like the SPUSA is dysfunctional. But for you to sit there as a member of the SPUSA, to sit there and to criticize the People's Parties, it's like those that throw stones at glass houses, for real.
So I thought that was poor judgment on Cornel West's part. They asked him, I guess, and he said yes.
There's more to that, Howie. Well, it's another of progressives that got together to form what was called Movement for a People's Party. And Cornel West was one of the endorsers of this party, along with Nina Turner, along with Jesse Ventura, Jimmy Dore, Nina Turner, I mentioned, Marianne Williamson, various progressive people have given their support to the People's Party. And, we need as many third parties as possible. I personally think, just as the SPUSA is working with the Green Party, that the People's Party ought to work with the Green Party. If I had it my way, Howie, we would have a Labor Party in this country. We would have a Labor Party, an official Labor Party, something actually called the Labor Party here in this country, for the left to unite and for the organized labor movement to rally around. Something that would be akin to the New Democratic Party of Canada is kind of what I would model this Labor Party after. We need something like that. With due respect to the Green Party is the closest thing to such a formation here. This is why I am a registered member of the Green Party. I don't go and browbeat other people and tell them you must go into this formation. I would like for us to do that as the organized left, but at the same time, I do believe let 1,000 flowers bloom.
This isn't the first time he's had poor judgment. He was an advocate. He did a lot of campaign work for Barack Obama in 2008.
A lot of people did work for Barack Obama in 2008. Even I was a supporter of Barack Obama for about 2 days in 2008. When Dennis Kucinich dropped out in 2008, I got behind Barack Obama, and a friend of mine told me that I should rethink about my support for Barack Obama, and told me a lot of things that were wrong with Barack Obama. And he ended up voting for Barack Obama anyway. And I ended up voting for Ralph Nader. Just Ralph Nader. And if I wouldn't have voted for Ralph Nader, I would have voted for Cynthia McKinney. And I would have been just as happy to vote for her. But here's the thing, Howie, it was 2008, and you have to understand. You don't understand this, and I'm not trying to virtue signal and all of that. But and I don't like the term white privilege, but you're a white guy, so am I. And in 2008, if you didn't suffer 200 years, you didn't suffer under slavery, you would, and Jim Crowism. And suffer under what it's like to be black in this country and to face into discrimination that the African American community faced all these years. And honestly, I'm not sitting there lecturing you like you're some kind of a bigot or something. I know you're not. But I just think this what you do need to know. You know, um, the African American community. As a whole, as a collective, individuals are individuals. So I'm not trying to act like that African Americans are a monolith. No one group are a monolith. But as far as being African American, 2008, I do understand the political psychology of a whole demographic about electing the first black man into the White House, and I understand that, and and that was part of the moment. And there were people out there that for a minute, Barack Obama was a refreshing face to what would have been an inevitable continuation of the Clinton machine. A lot of people, just like Bernie in 2016, they saw Bernie as an alternative to Hillary Clinton. They saw Barack Obama as an alternative to Hillary Clinton. People are tired of the Clintons, and they're tired of that right-wing direction. So, and Barack Obama, for all intents and purposes, was just a hair to the left of Hillary Clinton. And so people gravitated toward Barack Obama for that reason. Just like I figure he would be. I figure he'd be a disappointment. But, I turn out to be correct as I do on most things. But anyway.
He was a corporate neoliberal from way back. And when
the Scarves won, first message 12/20/21. Fuck Trump. Only listen to my social media. I don't know. I'm not American. Put him up, cowboy. Water gun emote. Is it anyone okay? Wait, is bro talking about Stalin? LMAO, in defense of Stalin, didn't he kill more than Hitler? Didn't he have the gulag? Country that lived of potato trade. Thoughts on the water making the frogs gay? This is your comments, the Scarves one, which I'm assuming you had a different name then, because I don't remember this name.
Obama didn't include West in his inner circles and White House events.
This person,
Cornel was upset, and then he became a critic of that neoliberal policy. But
I think that Cornel West knew that Barack Obama was not going to be the next FDR. And I think that that's a safe assumption. There were certain things that Obama's big mistake was, as much a supporter of universal health care as I am, Barack Obama's biggest mistake was to forego the labor law reform that he was campaigning on, which was the Employee Free Choice Act, the card check law. It would have undermined the current right to work laws that exist throughout the country. And Obama was a disappointment because the labor unions got weaker under Obama, and the right wing got stronger under Obama, because Obama is a typical Democrat that collapsed like a deck of cards before, the Republicans, once they go and start, beating their chests and acting like the Neanderthals most elected Republicans are. And this is one of the reasons why I flock into the third party, because the Democrats are a bunch of fucking goddamn pussies that can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag. They'll whine a little bit, and it sounds like they're fighting back a little bit. But when push comes to shove, the Democrats end up folding like a deck of cards, and the Republicans draw the line in the sand, and the Democrats, being the little cucks and the little pussies they are, just run toward that line, and then they shake their finger at the left. And it makes me all the more determined to say, well, fuck both parties. So anyway, we'll let you continue.
He could have seen that coming. I don't know what he was really thinking at that time. So there are questions of political judgment. And then I'll question
questions of political judgment. Sivers, what's up?
And how he has flip-flopped over the years, back and forth between the Democrats and Greens. I mean, let's just go over.
You might as well be a Democrat, Howie. Your take on Ukraine is abysmal.
Over that.
Yes, Nikki, you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. Howie Hawkins' position is kind of almost to the right of Biden, if you can imagine that. I mean, no negotiations. I mean, that's kind of that's almost equivalent to Bush Cheney territory during the darkest days of the Iraq War and this war on terror crap that was going on during those abysmal years. I mean, has Russia phobia fuck with your head that bad, Howie? Has it? I mean, are you scared? Are you scared of Russia that fucking bad? I mean, there's no nation in the world I am just scared of. There's one nation I'm scared of. I'm scared of the one country that actually dropped some nukes on people. I mean, yeah, I know that Japan were technically the enemy in World War II and all of that. But, which country actually dropped bombs on whole populations of people? It was the United States, Nagasaki, Hiroshima. I mean, it was the United States that did this. No other country did this. Countries that and look, I don't like the fact that that other countries around the world, any other country, I don't care what country it is, a friend of the United States, a foe of the United States. I don't like the fact that they have nuclear arms, but I also don't like the fact that the United States has nuclear arms either. I don't want any country to have nuclear arms, but anyhow.
In 2000, he was campaigning for Bill Bradley in the Democratic primary. And then when Bill...
Aha! I remember that. Not necessarily Cornel West campaigning for Bill Bradley, but I remember that short-lived, kind of embarrassing campaign of Bill Bradley and a bunch of lefties inside the Democratic Party, including the late Senator Paul Wellstone, endorsing Bill Bradley, and who was no better than Al Gore, honestly. But they did this as basically a fuck you to the Clinton machine by endorsing Bill Bradley. It was just their little symbolic fuck you. And the best fuck you would have been a vote for Ralph Nader of the Green Party or David McReynolds for president of the Socialist Party that year, which they didn't do because they're like everybody's scared to vote for a third party. They're just conditioned.
Bill Bradley lost to Ralph Nader.
He's going all the way back to 2000, okay? Even like 5 years ago, a lot of people didn't have the same political affiliation as they do now. It's just like, hey, Zoop, thank you for gifting a sub.
Yeah, I agree, Nikki. People evolve. People do evolve over the years. I mean, 25 years ago, no, longer to hell, 30 years ago, 1993, I was like the most hardcore Democrat you could imagine. I mean, I was an obnoxious partisan Democrat that was slowly waking up to the fact, asking myself this question: what the fuck is wrong with the Democratic Party? What the fuck is wrong with Bill Clinton fighting for NAFTA? What the fuck is wrong with the Democratic Party not fighting for FDR style New Deal values? What the fuck is wrong with the Democratic Party not trying to reverse the damages done to this country by Ronald Reagan and George Herbert Walker Bush? I was asking these questions in college, I was asking these questions back then. People evolve, and I knew that the two-party system was a farce, and I would eventually walk away from the two-party system, but I didn't do a full breakup of it. I was willing to support the Dennis Kuciniches, the Paul Wellstone types, in recent years, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez types within the Democratic Party. But I realized that you got to go and oppose both parties and realize both parties are the reason why we can't have nice things in America. And so people can do what they want to do, but I am not going to contribute to a capitalist pro-war party, and that would be in the form of the Democrats or the Republicans.
You probably shouldn't have done that because you don't know how long this account's going to last. Look, I wanted to know, and I asked Eric to ask him yesterday, so I'm playing it.
We got any back Nader. And then in 2004,
Thank you.
when there was this backlash from left liberal forces against Nader and the Greens.
Then why was this your first time chatting here?
Cornel West was out there publicly advocating against Nader.
Cheetah God, what's up?
Pro-war Kerry. What was Kerry's first name? Well, pro-war Kerry.
Okay, I remember 2004 mighty well. I voted for Walter Brown of the Socialist Party USA, but I was against the Socialist Party running a candidate that year. I was frankly against the Green Party running a candidate as well. At that time I was guilty of anybody but Bush and Cheney. I just thought that Bush and Cheney was so awful, and because just seeing what shit Bush and Cheney had done, the damages that was done at that time, I did understand why people were fighting hard for the Democrats to win in that election. It might have been the closest thing since my walk away from the two-party system. It might have been the closest thing to almost a yearning to return to it, just to defeat George W. Bush. And looking back, I kind of laughed at why the hell did I had that sentiment. So, but I understand why people did have that sentiment, including Cornel West. So, and frankly, I understand your sentiment, Howie, because the two-party system is shit. But please do understand with George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, what horrible SOBs, what horrible sons of bitches those two motherfuckers were, and how they have basically they're basically responsible for the swamp shit that the world is in today. They are responsible for the swamp shit that the world is in today. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Not Barack Obama, not Joe Biden, not even Donald Trump is responsible for this. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are. If anything, and I hate to say this, if anything, I think that Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump were an improvement to George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. And that's saying a hell of a lot. And that's a mighty low bar. But their tiny little improvement is nowhere even close enough to reverse the damages that was done under the negative right-wing trajectory that they have brought us into. And when history books, if we are not destroyed by climate change, when it's all said and done, and we're not destroyed by climate change or nuclear war, people might look back, if they're historically knowledgeable enough to realize that Bush and Cheney might have been where this whole trend in the modern era, where fascism in America got its foothold, because the right wing just started going extremely nuts. And they were nutty before, but this is when they really started to become more unhinged than they've ever been.
Kerry was saying he could fight the war in Iraq better than George Bush. And then, 2016, he was for Bernie to the Austin primary, and then he was for Jill Steyer. But in 2020, he was for Biden and against us in the Green Party.
He was originally for Bernie in the primaries too. Funny how you did not mention that for 2020. He was for Bernie in the primaries. Yeah, do I think he should have voted for you in the year 2020? In hindsight, back then, I thought so. I'm not going to say I still think it was a mistake for anybody to vote for Biden or Trump, for that matter. I mean, they both fucking suck. But, people actually thought that the country could go further left if Biden was elected because of how well Bernie was doing in the primaries. But the Clintonistas are still in control. And the hard lesson is that, and we should all know by now that the two-party system is a crock of shit. And the other conservative party, the Democrats, are still a conservative, capitalist, pro-war party. So, anyway, we'll let you continue.
So I wonder, when the pressure comes, and his peers who are, he's never been part of an organization that organized people, a party, a union, community organization. He's been an academic. He's well-known, a star. But he's joined letterhead coalitions.
Okay.
The names of the people that support the coalition, on the left-hand side of these, sometimes the right, but usually the left of these appeals, mostly single-issue stuff. But he played that role with DSA when Michael Harrington ran it, and it was definitely committed to the Democratic Party. So what's he going to do when, his peers, the mass media, everybody's vilifying him for spoiling the election, to elect Trump or DeSantis or whoever the Republican is. Will he stay in it? So I have that question.
I think that he knows what's going to happen to him. And I frankly am worried for Cornel West in that regard. Because, however, I also admire his courage because he has more courage than Bernie Sanders, as far as I'm concerned. I'm conflicted because there's a part of me that still likes Bernie, but at the same time, I'm disappointed, more disappointed than I've ever been with Bernie in my life. He's not the Bernie Sanders of the 1990s anymore. I always just say that much. The Bernie Sanders of the 1990s, the pre 2016 Bernie Sanders, where there was a little more radicalness, is gone. It's gone. So, I mean, there's nothing to be excited about with Bernie Sanders 2023. To be written off as the next Ralph Nader, he knows that, and he's brave, but he knows that this needs to be done. He knows that with the Bernie movement dead, that somebody's got to carry the torch. And I can think of no better person than Cornel West. And Cornel West is such a person, especially next to you with your position on the Ukraine conflict, which is unacceptable, Howie. It is unacceptable. If you didn't have that position on the Ukraine, yes, I would still be for Howie Hawkins, but I certainly wouldn't have such a disappointing perception of you like I do at this point. I'm sorry I'm having to have this negative impression of you at right now.
And then, who's managing his campaign? It looks like Chris Hedges.
So?
From somebody who might know, I won't reveal.
Let's listen to how he's got the gossip. Okay, let's go.
Chris Hedges. I heard from somebody who might know.
I heard from somebody who might know, a friend of a friend.
I won't reveal the source, but
I won't reveal the source.
Medea Benjamin might be involved.
Medea Benjamin might be involved. Okay, so who's around?
Medea Benjamin is based. I met Medea Benjamin twice. I would like to have her on my show, tell you the truth. But anyway, let's go on.
Medea Benjamin is totally. I know. That's right, Frosty.
Which again is a surprise. She was one of the people saying vote for Biden last time instead of the Greens.
I'm gonna hate on anyone that said vote for Biden, but I'm still gonna be like cooking it for Ukraine.
100% agreed, Nikki.
Like, he has no leg to stand on.
And the transparency. I mean, right now,
you're absolutely correct, Nikki. The position on the Ukraine puts him in the category of AOC, the Squad, and Bernie, whose position on the Ukraine is as atrocious as Howie's position. Actually, he's probably to their right on that position. In a way, Howie's position is less forgivable than Bernie's and the Squad's position, because they're in Congress and they're in a position where they're afraid they're going to lose their influence. I mean, I'm not excusing them for this at all. Trust me, I'm not excusing them. I'm explaining why it's less forgivable on Howie's part. They're scared they're going to lose their influence and their committee assignments and their access to the mainstream media. Howie, you have nothing to lose in your case. You could scream the shit through the rooftops about the war being wrong and how the cancerous influence of the military-industrial complex. But no, you're sounding like you're in the halls of Congress trying to do what the squad is doing and what Bernie's doing. And for that, in your case, it's less understandable and less forgivable. Anyway, and I am very critical of them for what they're doing.
The money's going to the People's Party from looking at his website. So, there's questions.
I listened to Cornel West a little bit on the Convo couch. He already had the interview with Posse. I was going to play it for you guys maybe tomorrow. But he said that he's already left the People's Party. So Howie's not listening to people. He should just talk to Cornel West. I'm sure he could. Someone in his chat asked if he would be willing to have him on to talk, but he ignored that question.
And then on his policy platform, what he says about democracy was really disappointing. He doesn't advocate for restoring the Voting Rights Act and putting in election protection provisions in the law to preempt what the Republicans are doing to suppress the vote and steal elections in the states they control.
Sorry, I gotta speed him up. He's talking to them slow.
Great party on that. Instead, what he talks about is term limits for Congress, which is a conservative bromide instead of the game-changing reform.
I think the term limits, just because the Republicans advocate term limits, and believe me, I am no Republican. I believe me, when I am very critical of the Republicans, but a stop clock gets the right time twice a day. You do need term limits. I say put term limits for the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate, just as you have term limits for the presidency. If you had term limits, we might not see as many Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Lauren Boeberts in the halls of Congress. We might see less Clarence Thomases and less right-wing dipshits in the Supreme Court. We may see, we had like a 10-year term limit. The Supreme Court might be less politicized. Yes, let's have term limits. We need term limits. Term limits is very well needed right now. So I don't understand you dumping on term limits. It's not the perfect solution, granted, but term limits would actually even make it possible for third parties to break through this two-party shit swamp that we're in. I don't understand your opposition to term limits. My God, let's have term limits. Really, honestly. But here's the thing, Howie. Here's why you're wrong. Because, I used to hear what you're thinking from 30 years ago. It was 30 years ago. I used to hear the Republicans, we need term limits. Oh, my God, we need some term limits. Absolute power. Power corrupts. And they were mad that the Democrats had been in power since 1954. But as soon as the Republicans won in 1994, Newt Gingrich became Speaker of the House. You never heard Republicans talk about term limits ever again. Never again you ever heard Republicans talk about it. Republicans have not talked about term limits in 30 years. So it's really no longer a talking point of the Republican Party. No longer a talking point.
Proportional representation was the Greens advocate. And then he calls for hand-counted paper ballots.
Who told me? Wasn't it you yesterday, Isaiah? I don't know if it was you. Who told me that Jimmy actually talked about how MPP is not on any ballots or something? Who said that? I forgot. Thank you for whoever said that. I thought it was Isaiah. Sorry if I thought that, not remembered.
Which are less accurate than machine-counted paper ballots. And it's another nostrum coming from the conspiracists.
He also talked about counting votes with pasta. So we should definitely watch that. I just don't have time tonight.
Election denier, right? So I don't know if he got those from Nick Brown or the People's Party, but that's disappointing. And then of course I'm concerned about his position on Ukraine.
My bad.
What he's been saying is not.
Here we go. He's going to talk about Ukraine.
Consistently anti-imperialist in solidarity with Ukraine in their fight for independence and survival. He kind of supports this passive-aggressive pacifism that you're getting from Code Pink, which is demanding that U.S. imperialists.
He's got something out for Code Pink. He's already mentioned the Medea Benjamin. I'm like,
yeah, I agree, Nikki, because I used to hear talk about Code Pink all the time. Right-wing radio talk show hosts from the Bush-Cheney era. I mean, it used to trigger the fuck out of these people, whether we're talking about Rush Limbaugh, or whether we're talking about Sean Hannity, or Glenn Beck, or Mark Levin, or some of these local fucks around the country in these local radio stations. There was one asshole here in North Carolina, Bill LeMay, that used to be obsessed with Code Pink. That motherfucker actually blocked me on Facebook. Son of a bitch that Bill LeMay is.
I'm not going to name any names, but they're close to Medea Benjamin. Okay.
Impose a ceasefire and settlement negotiated over the heads of Ukrainians with the Russian imperialists. A land for peace deal that carves up Ukraine between Western and Russian spheres of influence.
So Ukraine has not been invested in by BlackRock or none of those motherfuckers, right? Dear Lord, I was so cringe with this Ukraine shit. I agree.
I don't think he's talked to the left in Ukraine, because they would tell him.
No, right. I think
the left in the Ukraine's been banned. 13 political opposition parties were banned, and 2 main political parties were on the left, Howie. The Social Democratic Party was banned in the Ukraine, and the Communist Party were banned in the Ukraine. The left was banned in the Ukraine. Unions are not allowed to engage in collective bargaining in the Ukraine. Oppositional media are not allowed to exist in the Ukraine. And political opponents are usually on the left, are found on the kill list in the Ukraine. What part of that do you not get?
I think that
and there are fucking Nazis in the Ukraine. What left in the Ukraine? What left? Tell me. Where's the left in the Ukraine? Treatment against the LGBTQ is much harsher in the Ukraine than it is in Russia. It's bad in Russia, but it's worse in the Ukraine.
Cornel West was in the founding of the People's Party, so something like that.
So we got to say in this too, and this neutrality between the Russian aggressors and Ukrainian self-defense is just morally bankrupt complicity in Russian war crimes. And for a Christian preacher and a moral philosopher, what he's got a PhD in, that's not a good look. Now, Will Graham.
Yeah, you want to talk about theology? What about the banning of the Russian Orthodox Church in the Ukraine?
Who's Howie to talk about what's a good look or not?
That he does condemn Putin's invasion of Ukraine. He calls Putin a gangster, Russian empire. That's all good.
I also asked him about this too.
But are you going to support the people resisting that, or are you going to call for a compromise? I don't think he called for a compromise between Palestinians and Israelis on the land that Israelis are taking from the Palestinians. A land for peace deal there, that would not be just, nor would it be just in Ukraine. So I'm going to watch and see what he does on those policies. And I could say more, but I'll stop there. I'm sure it'll come up again in this discussion.
Cornel West is the kind of dude who actually cared enough to correct himself by getting away from the People's Party. I agree with that. Here's the link at current time if you want to hear any more of this ridiculousness. Thank you for sharing and asking that question, Eric. OG, what's up?
And thank you, Nikki, for sharing that. I will go and I'll go ahead and I got all your information on the down in the description box. Everyone, do follow Nikki on Twitch and Twitter. She's a cool lady. Just give her support and let her grow on social media. So do support her. So anyway, let's go with our next story here. And this is going to be on Cornel West discussion on Harlan's Media. He let's see, we're talking about what's his name? Kit Cabello. He had Craig Pasa Jardula up on the Convo couch, and they discuss this whole thing as well. So let's go ahead and find that video link, and we shall play that. And I'll go and make some comments there as well. So let me get everything set up, and away we go.
Particularly in some of the key states that you're looking at right now. I'm putting it up on the screen just so you know the number of votes that.
All right, so we're seeing that nail biter. I'm joined here with my good friend of the show, Craig Pasta Jardula. Yo, Pasta from the Convo couch. Your thoughts on CNN censoring, or either that continuing on with, let me say remove censoring, but obviously CNN does censor, but CNN pushing that narrative of, oh no, you're crowding the field and people won't vote for Biden. Take it away, Pasta.
Well, they're doing it backwards right now. The Green Party traditionally pulls votes from the Democrats. So why they're showing that, I guess they're trying to say there's maybe a populist type of movie, but no, it doesn't make sense there. If you want to show the libertarian votes normally pull from the Republicans. So that's the way the math works. So they're showing the math upside down. But any way you try to slice it up, Kit, they're going to go after the third party no matter what, because at the end of the day, that's what we got. We got two active working cartels, the Republican cartel and the Democratic cartel.
And that is very true, because I remember in 1996, when Bob Dole did not want Ross Perot in the debate, and so let's see, there was talk about having Bob Dole in the debate, and Ross Perot in the debate, and some people pointed out, well, why not have Ralph Nader in the debate, to go toe to toe with Bill Clinton and Bob Dole and Ross Perot. And I thought that would have made a very interesting spectacle to watch, but they want to just keep it so where it's just two candidates talking. They didn't want to see a repeat of 1992 when it was Bill Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush, and H. Ross Perot. They want to keep that away. They want to keep that third podium away as much as possible. And they're just satisfied with a horse race between the two horse shit show parties. So that's what we're stuck with. And that's what the media like. And we're conditioned. The American people are conditioned to go vote blue no matter who, or vote red. This is what they're conditioned. And I try my best to tell people, you don't have to settle. But for some reason, people will be like, oh, I just can't throw my vote away on a third party person. I'd rather throw my vote on somebody I don't particularly like on this side because the person on the other side is worse. And that's what we're stuck with. It's just America. Just for once, America, reject the Democrats and Republicans in a district, several districts. I'm asking for maybe about 10 districts. Every one of you, I don't care what party it is, whether it's the Libertarians or the Greens or even that dreaded Constitution Party, just toss out the incumbents and vote for a third party candidate for a change. Especially if you're dissatisfied with the clowns that are in power and the main opponent they're opposing them. You can always vote for a third party. Don't always fall back on, well, I got to vote for one fool or the other from the two dominant parties. So anyway, I'll let Cabello and Craig Pasa Jardula continue.
Is you stay in your area, we stay in ours. We don't like each other, but we come together to make sure what? A third party is never recognized. That the third party never gets that 5%, that doesn't get that public funding. The third party doesn't share the stage with us. That is the main goal of the two-party duopoly, which is the one uniparty, and that's what they're showing right there. They've exposed themselves. Happy birthday, Dana. You done stupid. You did something stupid over there.
Well, the thing is, like, I always found this to be really insulting. towards third parties, as though they're the great villain. But the thing is, what a lot of Americans fail to realize, and look, here's the thing, the Founding Fathers, they have their flaws, but I will respect them, especially those that did warn against the fact that if we form parties, the parties will care more about the party interests than the people. And when there was a formation of political parties, there was the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans, then there was the Democrats and the Whigs, then there was the Democrats and the Republicans. And by the way, the Republican Party under old Abe Lincoln was a third party. It was deemed, oh my goodness, another party, but that's what it was. And then there was at one point where the Democrats had control over the South, and then there was a great realignment where now the Republicans are in the South, the Democrats are in the North. Everyone thinks this is how it's always been. But third parties offer another choice, and we see in other democracies, republics, air quote, because again, there's corruption everywhere. There's no such thing as perfect. It never existed because perfect is just a myth. But in those other countries, in Europe, Canada, Australia, even though they got their own fair share of corruption, voters have a chance to choose something else. Various political parties, which is something that Americans lack. Now, my ideal world is where we have citizen ballot initiatives that call for the abolishment of all political parties, but that's a fight for another day. But we're seeing this vilification of third parties. And I, for one, find it insulting that the fact that automatically, a Green Party voter should go ahead and vote for Democrat and a Libertarian voter should automatically vote Republican, or anybody else should vote for one of the two-party systems. That's not how it works, because people are not robots, okay? Even though, sadly, we do live in a world that's easily hypnotized. People are good.
That's true. And sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes both parties take a shit on the concerns of individuals. Like for me, one of my big issues is universal health care. Preferably, I'm to the left of those who wants Medicare for all. I want a fucking national health service. National health service. But I am pragmatic enough to say that if you say you're for Medicare for all, and if you get elected, and you're fighting for Medicare for all, that's good. But you're gonna have to do more than to say I'm for Medicare for all, and then go into Congress and do next to nothing. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Anyway, point is, but the majority. Virtually all Republicans and the majority of the Democrats do not utter the word Medicare for all out of their lips. And I hear down here in North Carolina, you're not going to get a Democrat to be for labor law reform or Medicare for all, which are like my top two issues, let alone be opposed to capital punishment, let alone take on the military industrial complex, let alone oppose military funding for interventionism abroad, or what have you, or what have you, or trade policies that's beneficial to American workers, let alone all these things. So maybe a few safe social issues here and there, but that's about it. And I'm more than just about empty gestures. But anyway,
going to vote for somebody that's going to, the key word here, earn my vote. To quote Jimmy Dore, earn my vote. Before I pull up this next video, I just want to give the floor to you because...
Thank you about the earning the vote. That's another thing about it, earning the vote. Bill Clinton, he did not earn my vote. Al Gore did not earn my vote. Barack Obama, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, none of those motherfuckers earned my vote. No Republican earned my vote ever. So, I mean, it's just, you don't earn my vote. Don't expect me to vote against my interests. Don't expect me to do that. And folks, when somebody try to guilt trip you into voting for the two-party system candidate, just don't let them do it, because, you're just going to get more of the same. When I don't see any tangible changes, that's all you need to see. Just look around you. You don't see any tangible changes. What they say, insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Because you have covered numerous incidents of the lack of election integrity, not only here in the United States. I know there was California, for example. Convo Couch did a fantastic job. I know in collaboration with Nico House calling out what was happening in Florida, but even outside the United States, you've seen examples of election integrity, elections working, elections not working. Your thoughts on what this could mean for the third-party movement in the 2024 election cycle as a whole?
Well, I think you just hit it on the nose right there as you were kind of pointing it out, dude. Like, we need the first things first. And I'm going to ask Dr. Cornel West when I interview him today. If people don't know, Dr. Cornel West will be on the Convo Couch at 5 p.m. Eastern. But I'm going to ask him about elections because we can't get anything done. A third party doesn't mean anything if it's not a fair process. The only way we get another third party into the mix is if we have a fair process. And when you do go across these and you see these elections in these areas where they go, oh, there's dictators, Ortega is a socialist dictator. Well, Nicaragua, where they say he's a dictator, has a very clean, fair, and transparent process. Much more than we have over here today. So no matter what, I mean, and it's so important we get this third party in there, right? We start with the third party, then we get the fourth. Hopefully we can knock it down. I get it. I think the fact is that there's so many parties in a lot of these other places with parliament, it makes parties irrelevant, right? You don't have the two parties coming together to control the cartel, to control the area. So it is vitally important, and I think that is the most important thing because I've been saying for quite some time, and that's why people are busting my balls about the RFK thing and being excited about his campaign. But like I said, that's just to bring the discussions to the table. And we don't know what's going to happen down the road. And I wish some of the people who are coming out guns a-blazing, talking about Zionists over here too as well, just take it a little bit easier because, we're going to have some questions for Cornel West today about the COVID and about his love for Dr. Fauci. And whether we like it or not, like I said the other day, COVID protocols, vaccine skepticism is way more higher on everybody's radar in the United States, unfortunately, than Israel-Palestine. It should be equally concerning. That's the way I look at these things. So, at the end of the day, we're going to have to get our elbows dirty. And I already see people going back and forth, but they got to calm down because, yes, we do need a third party at the end of the day. And that is very, very important. So,
And again, look, to Dr. Cornel West campaign, to the Libertarians, or anybody else that's running a third party or independent campaign, I'm just going to point out my state. And again, when Heartland's Media was on the streets, when we interviewed Libertarians and Greens, the story was the same. They had to get 20,000 signatures, 30,000 signatures. Sometimes, I forget what election cycle it was, they had to get 50,000 signatures just to secure their names on the ballot because Illinois is extremely draconian. The one time in this state's history where the laws were laxed was in 2020. And then, right back to where it's supposed to be the next year. So
down here in North Carolina, the Green Party got ballot access, and then they were taken off the ballot. And then they were able to get back on the ballot because the Democrats wanted to tell the left to just go to hell and just vote for the Democratic candidate for the U.S. Senate. I forgot the lady's name. She's not important because she didn't stand for anything. And I am happy to say that I was one of the 29,000 people that voted for Matthew Ho, the Green Party candidate for U.S. Senate. So, and I hope that he runs again for future offices. But anyhow.
I want to pull up this other video here from Case Study QB. And again, please follow him on Twitter. He's doing phenomenal work, but also support his YouTube page and Odyssey page as well, because, again, he's being censored on Twitter, but that was done by the previous administration. So Elon Musk fixed that. So it's
Johnson compared to Donald Trump's margin there. What's to say, despite your convictions and your argument about the two parties not being the way to go, what's to say what I just showed on the screen won't happen with Cornel West on the ballot and not Jill Stein?
I mean, one, that, my dear sister Jill Stein, who got 1.07% of the vote, my dear brother Ralph Nader, who got more, he got about 4%. But you don't look to the weakest candidates as a full explanation as to why you lose. Sister Hillary Clinton lost because she was not a good candidate. She didn't go to Wisconsin, and you know even better than all of us all the various factors that go into why she also didn't lose. Not just that one fact. So the idea of putting all the responsibility on the candidate who gets the fewest votes compared to the other big two. It's just a way of rationalizing a two-party system that has become more and more outdated and antiquated, both tied to big money and big military, and they don't allow us to speak to 60% of our fellow citizens who are wrestling every day trying to put money on the table and waiting for the next check. And the gross wealth inequality continues, and the military budget continues to expand. We saw this with Brother Biden. But I do want to say this, though, just quickly, that this campaign is also about getting beyond hatred and revenge. You see, I don't hate Brother Trump. I hate his lies and his gangster neo-fascism. I don't hate Brother Biden. I hate his hypocrisy, and I hate his milquetoast neoliberal policy. And we have to be able to engage in a public conversation that gets beyond eye for an eye and this vicious kind of revenge, so that it reinforces the distrust and the paranoia. And that's a immeasurable dimension. That's the invisible dimension of my campaign that's going to set a different kind of tone of what my brother Cliff West called a paradigm shift in American politics. I'm a jazz man in the world of politics, and the jazz man is always about improvisation, always about compassion, always about style, and always about a smile.
Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West is a better man than I am. Because I try not to hate any individual, but some people just piss the fuck out of me. And the people that just makes life miserable for people in this country, or make life miserable for people in other countries, and destroy our environment and create an economic environment that deprives people of opportunity and basically drives up the cost of living, and basically, no matter how much the United States changes between Democrats and Republicans, that a certain Kentucky Republican oligarch pretty much runs the show in the Congress. Whatever he wants as Senate Majority Leader or Minority Leader, this Kentucky Republican oligarch gets his fucking way. And so that's not sitting there saying that that one party is it's not sitting there saying that one party is better than the other, because Hillary Clinton lost the election in 2016 because she fucking suck. She fucking suck. She, instead of going further left with a vice presidential candidate, she went further right. She was butting up so much with Henry Kissinger. I mean, that isn't just enough to make you want to barf. And here's the thing. Let me tell you how the two-party system is. Okay, the Republican Party, elected Republicans parties are headed toward the ideological path of Augustus Pinochet. There's no denying of that. They are playing with fascism, a lot of them. The Democrats, they're basically Ronald Reagan in 1980. And there's really no strong organized left in this country. So when many of us, whether we are for Ralph Nader 20 years ago or in the past half decade, got on the Bernie Sanders train, and 2020, some of us were on the Bernie train, some of us were on the Tulsi Gabbard train, and some of us decided we're going to go and hold our nose and vote for Biden as a lesser evil. Some of us said we're going to go and vote for Howie Hawkins, and some people are regretting that vote, I guess. So there is that. The point is that there's really not a strong organized left here in this country the way it exists in other countries. And this is why I'm right here behind my microphone trying to do my part for what it's worth. But Cornel West is a better man than I am in that regard, because you should love everybody. You should love everybody. And I'm a lukewarm Christian. I'm more secular than anything else. I'm more secular, but but the point is that I should follow that commandment about loving thy neighbor and all of that. And it's sometimes hard to do. It is hard to do when you see stupidity and sometimes you see actual evil and injustice. It's a hard thing to do, honestly. But Cornel West running on love is what we should do. This is something that MLK basically try to inspire in us, for example.
And again, I like the message that is being presented here because, again, CNN is still harping on that idea that, oh, third parties are going to be a spoiler candidate. No, they're not. It's another choice. It's another option. And there's only been few instances. And again, I'm just going to name just a couple that really stand out to me. I know that the audience, I know you've given a couple others, but here's a couple that really stood out. There was Ross Perot. There was when he was facing off against Bill Clinton and Bush Sr. There was Ralph Nader with Al Gore and Bush Jr. There was Dr. Jill Stein's campaign in 2016. I know she ran earlier. There was a previous election cycle she ran earlier.
Cynthia McKinney.
Thank you for that correction. And then there's also, even though it didn't really, it should have gone further. There was Theodore Roosevelt and the Bull Moose Party. So voters need another choice. Voters need another option, and it's long overdue that the American people actually have a healthy, robust choice. We get to choose whatever we want to eat, or even though it's manufactured food. But we choose what we want to watch, even though sometimes corporate media likes to control that narrative. Oh, boy, now that I keep on correcting myself, Pastor, do we have any choices at all? And how the hell do we break this then?
And Kit, you're right, because I like to use Canada as an example, because Canada is basically, when you compare it to the United States, the border separates. But it's a shared culture in a lot of ways. It's a shared culture in a lot of ways. You go into Canada, in some ways it still feels like the United States. So there is that. In some ways you feel like you're in another country too. But no other place in the world feels more like you're still in the United States than it does when you're in Canada. And so I'm using that as an example. But while it feels like you're in the United States, there is a lot of difference between the United States and Canada. You're in Canada. You get sick. I mean, you got Medicare to take care of you. It's not a perfect system, but you know what? I don't care what right-wingers like to say. People are escaping from Canada to get away from that system. Well, people die here in the United States because they can't afford it, and more people suffer under the profit motive system of the United States than they ever could in Canada. Any problem Canada has, the problems that the United States has with their profit motive based healthcare system is 1,000 times worse than the problems of Canada. Promise you that. Things that they do in Canada, when you have 30% of the workforce unionized in Canada compared to 6% of the private sector here in the United States. When you have things like human rights being protected, like no capital punishment, whereas the United States is basically like Saudi Arabia and other countries around the world with extreme repressionist approach toward criminal justice. Well, Canada has multiple parties too, compared to the United States. And they have one political party that as a leftist, I always look to as a model. It's the New Democratic Party, which prior to 1961 was called the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation, which is their Labor Party in Canada. And they're the reason why Canada has nice things. And that's the reason why liberals and sometimes even Tories have to kind of play ball with the NDP in Canada. Previously, the Cooperative Commonwealth Federation. So anyway, I will let Kit and Pasta continue.
Well, what I'm looking at when I look at those numbers, I'm looking at one thing, and if you want to call that Libertarian or that Green Party the spoiler, so be it, call it. But if we had election integrity, if we push for transparency, if we had a system that we can stand behind that was absent of proprietary software in a public funded election, and they did it where it's cast, it's counted in public, then those 2%, those 3%, those 4%, you know what, kid? They might be 5%, 6%, 7%. And then the public funding comes. And then you can't ignore that candidate. Then you can't ignore that party. Then the third party is there. They're on the stage. They're on the ballot. And that's what needs to happen. Because now then, instead of this whole situation where, you know, the Democrats could take one point of view, the Republicans could take the other point of view, it's WWE wrestling, you got that part in the middle that's pulling them, that's making them go to get the voters on the left or making to get the voters on the right. They got to now compromise, right? This is what Jesse Ventura we saw in Minnesota when he became the governor. The Republicans, to get some things done, they had to compromise. The left, the Democrats, they had to compromise. And when you compromise, you reach more of a middle ground, more of a populist decision. So that's what I'm looking at when I see those TVs. Yes, they are the spoiler, and good for them. They should be the spoiler.
Yes, and Pasta is absolutely correct. And I'd like to add this caveat to it. The tiresome culture war between the Ron DeSantis's and the Gavin Newsoms of this country, you'll see far less of it if we had a third party. You know, we could solve this issue of identity politics with good old-fashioned civil libertarian approaches. You know, LGBTQ people should be given equality. End of story. End of story. It shouldn't be a political issue. You know, if some fundamentalist weirdo pastor want to go rant in a service about how much they hate the gays or what have you, okay, you're a crazy man, you're a piece of shit for doing it, but that's your religious right. You know, you just don't have a right to wish violence on them. But you know, if you just want to say you want to go, ew, I hate them, I guess that's your right. I'm a free speech absolutist. Okay, but the minute you start doing advocating violence, you know, there's no free speech on that, and you know, your tax exempt status. They should go after you on that one and everything. You know, with regard to the LGBTQ community, all they want to do is be left alone and live their lives. That's all they want. That is all they want. They don't want special rights. They want equality. It's not a special right. And the two-party system turns everything into a culture war. And you have the right-wing cranks that basically try to push their way onto this community, and sometimes this community comes out with a militant response. I think a third party would actually have a measured response in a situation where you can resolve these things for the better, and you can have a more of a civil society.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And here's the thing. I've been yelled. I want to play one more video here. Again, it's on CNN. There's another video I have towed up, but it's from Fox News. And I think my audience has been bombarded enough with the Fox News sham of that sinking ship, because yes, Fox News will sink like CNN. Not yet, but it soon will. But, you know, I remember easily being called a Trump supporter by voting for Dr. Jill Stein, or misogynist, misogynist, sexist, all that kind of stuff. Or either that when I've interviewed libertarians. And yes, there was a lot of, this is the height of the activist movement between 2016 to 2020. When I've interviewed libertarians and I said, I've interviewed these people and I've interviewed these individuals. Oh, those aren't good enough. You shouldn't interview those people. So there's always you shouldn't talk to third parties. You shouldn't talk to organizations that want to form a new political movement in this country. And again, people are easily hardwired in this country because of the Trump derangement syndrome. See, Trump isn't the problem to politics. He's a parasite that used the neoliberal system that was designed by both Democratic and Republican lawmakers. Third parties then bring us into this nightmare. It's these dynastic families and these politicians who've been in power for 20 plus years and more that have been controlling how we live in this country. It isn't the Green Party's fault or the Libertarians' fault or a Socialist Party or Forward Party or People's Party. It's not third party's fault. It's the two-party system and their corporate donors with the help of corporate media giving you this narrative.
It's the CIA's fault.
It's the CIA, FBI, DOD. It is
the CIA's fault. They're a government within a government. You know what I'm saying?
It's the 1, 2, 3. It's a 3-letter name acronyms.
But the CIA is the big one. It really is the big one. Those are the ones that seem to appear to be working directly for the oligarchs. Those are the ones who controlled elections here and abroad. Those are the guys that we got to watch out for more than anything. I think is, I really think they're at the top of the food chain. And listen, I always talk about Colombia. I went to all these places, but Colombia was really special, Kit, because I had spoke to them. I had spoke to the magistrate who was like the one odd guy fighting for the people when it came to elections. And he had told me every single election for the last 5 elections, the people, they recognized what was in front of them. That's the first thing they do. They learned, they understood, they were politically involved, they understood the election process. And every single election, they got one rule changed in their favor. One rule changed in their favor until eventually this last election, it was the most transparent, free, fair election they ever had. And they're not crazy about their candidate. They even compromised on their candidate because the people understood that they had to build a coalition to get him in Gustavo Petro. He was once a guerrilla, but then he has been working with the Clinton administration. They felt like he was the best within the establishment to get it done. But the election system they worked on and the people got power. And that was the most important thing for them right now. Moving forward, it's going to be exciting. But once again, there's talk about, them cooing Gustavo Petro in Colombia. Colombia's a NATO country. It's one of the only Latin American country that has NATO status. It gets more weapons in Latin America than any other country out there. There are American bases there. So he's got to walk on eggshells. But seeing that gives me hope, thinking that if we, the people, just get our heads out of our ass, because you know what one thing that me and Fiorella said to each other on January 6th when we were there, okay? And this is not when we were by the Capitol and seeing people going in. This was just seeing the mass amount of people there at the Ellipse and walking and seeing all these people. It's like, wow, where were the progressives when they treated Bernie? Why didn't they show up? You know what I'm saying? And I was talking with the crowds. We were talking elections.
Because Bernie left his people. That's what happened.
But the people went with him, too.
Yeah.
A lot of people went with him. Some of us said, F no, we went elsewhere. But that was the thing. These are our elections. It shouldn't be a right-left thing, a blue or red thing. It should be a fair thing. Because these election systems, you know who it hurts most? The progressives that are standing behind the corruption, and it's because they're happy with the results and not the process. It's going to hurt them, kid, because they'll never get their grassroots candidate in. Never. Not with this system.
Agreed. I want to pull up this one more video here and talk about, again, and this is a key word here, shout out again to KSWQB, how both parties lose sight of poor and working class Americans. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. He's wrongly being censored. Please support his work and follow him. Also, shout out to Roger Meadows as well. I got a special announcement after this segment.
You made the arguments during the 2020 campaign similar to what I'm hearing you make now when you were backing other candidates, Bernie Sanders to be precise. But you did end up voting for Joe Biden because you said 4 more years of Donald Trump could be worse. Why isn't that the case for you this time around?
Well, I learned from my very dear brother, Bernie Sanders. I have a very profound respect for him, even as we disagree on a number of things. But I'm thoroughly convinced he was treated unjustly. I'm thoroughly convinced that the corporate wing of the Democratic Party will always use the progressive wing as a kind of window dressing. The progressive wing will never triumph. We almost triumphed, and then the neoliberals came together after called by Obama to Amy and Pete and the others. And therefore, I'm thoroughly convinced that first, pushing back Trump, that's exactly what I tried to do, part of an anti-fascist coalition. But then I began to see you never, ever defeat fascism with a milquetoast neoliberalism that doesn't have vision and passion. The only way you defeat fascism that is coming to America, if we do not fight, is a strong vision, strong passion, and then I'm going, as I've said, to Trump country itself. Yeah. I'm going to my white brothers and sisters and say, don't scapegoat the most vulnerable, confront the most powerful. There's another way of looking at that.
Well, I want to ask you about that. forgive me for interrupting, but I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned to my colleague Jay Tapper that you're going to go to Trump country. What specifically do you think that people who are ardent Trump supporters are going to be receptive to in your message?
Well, one, I don't believe that they're homogeneous and monolithic. About 1 out of 10 for them, 10 of them voted for Brother Bernie himself. They were looking for an alternative because they see through the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party, talking about justice on the one hand, but tied to big money on the other. And so I want to go back to those folk and recognize when I see a Trump supporter, I don't see a stereotype. I see a human being, many of them who are wounded, and too many of them follow a neo-fascist.
I want to basically give my take on this. When it comes to the MAGA coalition, the Trump coalition, they're not all the same. They're not a monolith, and Cornel West would be correct on that. And but let's talk about the conservative, the actual Republicans that are part of this MAGA coalition, and who are probably the most toxic and who would be the least toxic or the most benign in that coalition. I would say that you got your Ron Paul style libertarians who are Republican leaning voters that are genuinely socially moderate to liberal on social issues, that are generally non-interventionists on foreign policy, critical to military industrial complex, do not like the militarization of the police, favor drug legalization, do not have problems with the LGBTQ community, and do not like a lot of this theocratic Sharia bullshit of the Republican Party, the evangelical Christians trying to impose Christian Sharia onto the American people. They might be the most benign. You got people who are 2 times Obama voters, voted for Bill Clinton in the past, in the Rust Belt states where the deindustrialization existed. A lot of them are working class, blue collar union voters that had their jobs taken away from them, their unions taken away from them. And, they may have voted Republican a time or two in their lives, but they're pretty much solidly behind the Democrats. And Trump came in there and said, I want to get your jobs back. I'm going to bring manufacturing back. They like that populist talk that the Democrats seem to wuss out of it these days. Those people are not a problem. Who are the problem? Strangely enough, the people who are considered hardcore MAGAs are a lot of people who I like to call the never Trumpers. The people who were actually anti-Trump in the Republican primaries in 2016 that voted for Trump on election day. And a lot of the never Trumpers of 2016 who hated Trump in 2016 because they thought he was too liberal, that voted for Trump in 2020 because he was more right-wing than they ever thought he could be. And those people might be the worst people around. A friend of mine that lives up in Pennsylvania, Catherine M. McCloskey, and I came up with the name of these people who follows people like Mark Levin, and the people who follows people like Dinesh D'Souza, and people who follow these folks, and we call them Theocon neocons, the people who follows or QAnon neocons, these kind of people. They're like neoconservative in their foreign policy. They're QAnon extremists, birther types that were Tea Party types, and they're basically they flirt with white nationalism, but they don't quite go there, but yet they do, and they feel like it's kind of safe to be a racist now, but they sometimes give you plausible deniability. Those are like the worst people around. And if it wouldn't have been Donald Trump, it would have been Ted Cruz or Mitt Romney in 2012 was their man, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney in their day, or whoever is the Republican Party leader at the moment. And trust me, it could be very well Ron DeSantis in 2024. That's who they follow. It's not necessarily Trump. It's whoever's the leader of the Republican Party. It's like they'll try to find a reason to make. They're going to be like, well, this is our asshole that we're going to be following. That's the mentality that they go along with. But anyway, I just wanted to go and touch on that as well and everything. So let me do this here. I could go on talking about this all night. I really could. I needed to go and do a video, but right now I want to talk to everyone here on the chat line and make some announcements too. So there we have it. Okay. Willie says the Gemini, the Gemini 93. Let's see. Hi, Willie. Fuck the world. Nuke it. Okay. Odd Third Campism. Catherine and McCloskey. Hey, how are you? I was just talking about you a second ago. Let's see. Anthony Malecki. Nah, people equal shit. Let's see. Who's this douche? Kill humans. T. Okra. Said Anthony Malecki. 100. Okay. All right. Let's see what that's about. JJ says how he wants war. Let's see here. Let's see. Hey, Rad Fam, says Matt John. And Nikki. The Willie Bragg Show. Hey, Willie Bragg Show. How are you doing, Nikki, today? How are you? I try to get your streams whenever I can. You're half the world away, so the hours kind of conflict occasionally. So there you have it. Let's see here. NHS, says Matt John. Yes, NHS all the way. The Willie Bragg Show. Oh, you got a major mention today. All right. Let's see. All right. Oh, that was my message to Nikki. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, I missed it. Yes. Let's see. Thank you at the Willie Bragg Show. Jimmy, hey, how are you? I left you a Facebook message, so I need to whenever you get a chance, I need to talk to you. So exactly, even though I'm a doomer now, I still believe that the only way a third party can be viable is if enough people vote for it, and that's what's needed. Let's see here. Don't even try, just scream about it. I scream about independent political action through the rooftops. Let's see. Yankee Tanky, how is everyone? I am doing good. How are you, Yankee Tanky? Let's see. All right. So I'm glad that Dr. Cornel West wants to talk to folks in the Trump country, but you can't call the political icon leader a fascist and expect MAGA to be willing to jump on. You're right, Yankee Tanky, and Craig Pasa Jardula did call Dr. Cornel West out on that, and all that. He did call him out on that, and I totally agree. And not every Trump supporter is a quote unquote fascist. I mean, yeah, I know Richard Spencer and Nick Fuentes; those people are, but I mean. I got family member. I mean, my dad voted for Donald Trump in 2016, and he liked Donald Trump on the basic policies, but he voted for Joe Biden in 2020 because he got fucking tired of seeing Donald Trump on news every fucking day. He said Donald Trump exhausted me, and he still sees Donald Trump on the news. And my dad doesn't like Joe Biden, but that was a weird way that was the weirdest reason to vote for Joe Biden. He said, I just got tired of seeing him on the news. I was like, could have voted third party, Dad. But anyway, as I said, no, I don't think that Donald Trump is a fascist or a racist. I do think he's a grifter. He will say whatever he could say to ignite a base. I could see him being a total shit lib in the Democratic Party, speaking like Pete Buttigieg, or speaking like Beto O'Rourke on in his Donald Trump style way. I could totally see him doing that instead of talking like whatever Republican asshole out there that talks their crazy talk. So I mean, he's a political chameleon, and I am going to predict that if Russell Dobular's prediction that the Republicans will not allow Donald Trump to be the nominee, and Ron DeSantis is the Republican nominee, and he beats Biden in the 2024 election, my prediction, it may not happen right away, but my prediction is that they will rehabilitate Donald Trump, and Democrats rehabilitate past Republican presidents. No Republican rehabilitate past Democratic Party presidents, but the trend among Democrats is to rehabilitate and say, well, that Republican president was not such a bad guy. Ronald Reagan's been rehabilitated. And I would argue he might have been one that started this neoliberalism crap that we're having to contend with today. But the Democratic Party now is where the Republican Party was in 1980. Except there's no religious right in there. But when it comes to the major policy on economics and foreign policy and that sort of thing, they're pretty much of one mind, the Democratic Party of 2023 and the Republican Party of 1980. So that's where I stand on that. I absolutely agree, Willie. I'm not currently supporting him, but I wish him the best, regardless of my views on the Greens. He's still better, not just good enough for me. Post the People Party. The People's Party, they're just dysfunctional. That's how I look at the People's Party. Got nothing against the People's Party. I just know dysfunctional third party when I see one. I was a member of one for a decade. I was in a very dysfunctional third party, so I know what a dysfunctional third party is like. Let's see. What I mean is that this is a post him push away the People's Party for the Greens. I'm a People's Party stan. Well, as I said, I like the People's Party. It's dysfunctional, and I do wish them well. I wish all third parties of the left well, and I mean all third parties. I'm a registered Green. I'm not like deeply committed to the Greens, but they are there, and the Democrats, it's not good enough for me. The Republicans Party, forget about it. When it comes to the Libertarians, the economics is what drives me away. Socially, I could deal with the Libertarians, but on economics, I'm just not there. With due respect to the Libertarians, I respect Libertarians, most Libertarians, but I'm just not an economic Libertarian. So anyway, I am about ready to get out of here. One last comment, then I'm getting out of here. Fair enough. Just speaking my difference, and I wish him well, but not be supporting him. I understand. So right now I'm going to leave right now because I got to get some sleep. Be sure announcement next week. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. I'm interviewing Tina Phillips. Tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock her time. I'll be interviewing Tina Phillips. She for Pride Month. I'm gonna somebody I knew years ago, and so I'm gonna be interviewing her. So it'll be about an hour, and then next Tuesday at I believe at 6 o'clock. I'm not sure what time. What time is it? 6 or 7? I'm not sure what time. I'm going to have to check back on the time. But I'm going to be on the JB Font Show with James Fauntleroy from RBN. I'll be a guest on his show, so that'll be really neat when I'm on his show. So there's that. And let me just conclude by saying, if you like what you heard, please press like. And be sure to comment away. We'll have a conversation. When you press like, it helps with the algorithms. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Let's see. Be sure to also subscribe to this channel. Hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitch as well, along with Facebook and Twitter. And let's see what else. Oh, reject corporate media. We must do that. And until next time, I am Willie Bragg. I will conclude. I will conclude by saying to you all, music. Oh, one last thing. I promised Jimi Sunderland I was going to do this, so I forgot to say this. Please follow her on YouTube and Twitch. She's trying to gain some subscribers on her channel. You'll see that on the description box below. So I forgot to mention that. I told her I was going to remind people to do that. So now I'm going to conclude with music. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.